Oops. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here. I think you started it. That's fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I wonder if to show your screen, if it has to
Yeah,
start.
that's what it did. It looks like it. That's fine. I guess just
Okay.
know at 11 that people may be coming in.
Okay. So I just kind of stopped the showing the screen, but I can there we go.
Okay. Well, it's recording now. So this will be part of the repeat. So just so you're aware.
Okay. So we'll wait.
Okay. I'm going to mute myself, but if you have any questions for me, just let me know, or you can type them in the chat. I'll have that open.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
And then, Lindsay, I'll mute myself and I'll let you start it off.
Cool.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Lindsay here. Just want to let you know we're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join in, so just hang tight, and then we will be getting started shortly. Thanks. Hey all, we still have a couple more folks that we're waiting on, so we're just gonna keep waiting another minute or two to try and let folks who are, still opening everything and getting online have time to get in. Thanks. All right, so most of our folks are here, so I think we will go ahead and get started. So housekeeping, we have a questions section, so please feel free to type in any questions there. We'll have time for questions at the end, so we'll go through everything then. And with that, thank you all for coming today. This is the webinar about the walk and roll poster contest and the new e-toolkit. So I am Lindsay Huber. I'm the Education Programs Manager with the Street Trust. And then with me today, who will be speaking in the second half, is Whitney Bennett, who is the Safe Routes School Coordinator for Commute Options. So as we all know, walk and roll, is usually our big May encouragement event, the Walk and Roll May Challenge. And with schools closed, that can't go ahead the usual way. So instead, we've come up with some different resources for you all to help, provide some different things, provide some ideas for how to engage with families at your schools during all this time. So the whole idea behind all of this is that we are just going to provide a whole bunch of different resources, and you guys can all customize it to exactly what you guys want, what works for you, what works for your families, and that might be different for different schools. So with that, we're going to go through a few different parts. So next slide. So the part that I've been working on with the Street Trust, we have a lovely photo here of Tina Skiles at the top, and who is on this call today. So Tina, you're a celebrity. So what we've got on the Street Trust website are some of the different resources around this art contest that we've created, and just some different resource lists that you can send out to families. So to get to this page, you can go to the Street Trust website and go to initiatives and then the walk and roll section, or you can just get there by typing thestreettrust.org/walkroll. Very easy. Next slide. So in the top section is where we're calling it the Walk and Roll Spring Challenge, since we know it's not going to be limited to just May this year. And what we've got on this page are links to some of the different items that we've got. So the first link at the top is for the general resources and sample emails that you can send out to families. And then the second part is about the poster contest. So next slide. So the Walk and Roll Spring Challenge resources, this is that first link that I mentioned there. So it goes through just kind of a designed as a letter for families. And then if you go to next slide, the very bottom of the page under additional resources is what you can click to get access to the packet that we put together that's got sample letters for parents, teachers, administrators, and some sample social media and newsletter messages. So next slide. So just go through this letter real quick so you know what's in it. So this came from our friends in Hillsborough, and we just kind of edited it a little bit and have tried to make it useful for all of you to use across the state. So it's includes different resources for like walking, biking, the art contest, etc. And the whole idea is, again, you can swap in different resources if you have ones that are specific to your school community that you like better. This is all designed for you to just pick and choose what works. And if you want to, like, for example, we'll talk about the art contest in just a minute, but if you want to just talk about poster contest, that is totally fine. It's all whatever you want to use. That's great. Okay, next slide. So here's some more of the resources about teaching your kid to ride a bike, some different safety tips and skills for riding a bike, how to fit a helmet, some basic bike maintenance. And then we also list on this one the e-toolkit that we'll be going into with Whitney later on, along with, I don't know if you all have looked at the resource guide that Eugene Springfield Safe Routes to School put together. But it's really nice too because it's broken out by grades and stuff and has some different activities as well as age appropriate resources about walking and rolling with your family and your kids. All right, next slide. So the art contest, this is the really big one that we're hoping that you can push with your families. If you're in an area that already does an art contest, like I see Nicole Perry is on here, and the example art that's on here is from her communities there in Clackamas. So if you already have an art contest in your area and want to enter those students into this contest, that's awesome. The main prize with this is just that families will be able to see their kids' art on the future walk and roll to school day and May challenge posters. I've been speaking to Heidi Manlove at the Oregon Department of Transportation, and she's talked about we may be able to use art from winners on the sides of like buses and other, big campaigns in the future. So there's not like a prize, like you don't win, like actual physical things because of just all the, uncertainty around COVID and mailing things out to individual families. But you get the non-physical prize of getting to have your art shown all across the state. So what we're looking for is just art that celebrates walking and rolling safely. And if you go to the next slide, just shows the guidelines. The one to really push is that entries are due by June 15th, 2020. It's open to all students in Oregon that are grades K through 8. Can be hand-drawn, computer-drawn, but it just has to be scanned or photographed, and has to reflect safety laws, like wearing helmets, using crosswalks. So we're not doing any physical mailing of art at this time. Like I said, has to be scanned or photographed. And then I set up an email address that's just walkrollOregon@gmail.com. If you're working directly with your schools and you would like them to email them to you and then you forward them on to me, that's perfectly acceptable. Whatever makes it easiest for you is totally fine. And then again, the winners will have their art used on future Oregon Walk and Roll event posters, media campaigns, things like that. I do want to mention I have incentives available. So I've got my usual like stickers and pencils and things like that. So if that is useful for you for, you know, to send home if you've got like schools open for doing lunches or things like that, please reach out to me. We're happy to give them to you for that. Or if, you know, a student in your area wins, I can give you some stuff that you can give them in the fall. We just didn't want to promise extra stuff right now when, yeah, distribution is such a difficult question. And with that, I will hand it off to Whitney.
Thank you, Lindsay. So I'm Whitney Bennett. I am the Safe Routes to School coordinator with Commute Options in Bend. And I am going to walk you all through the e-toolkit that we now have on Oregon Safe Routes to School website. So this is a response to the shift and not being able to be within the schools. And we wanted to create something that could be accessed by everyone that is used to running walk and roll activities within the schools, and so that they could find a way to adapt in this current environment. So I will move right into first of all, the location of where this exists. We have put it on the OregonSafeRoutes.org website, and it exists there as a complete document. The intention of this document is for the coordinators and for school administrators. So the full document is more of a packet to be viewed by that and could be downloaded in its completion. We've also isolated pieces of the document. So if the lesson plan wanted to be pulled out and offered to students in some capacity, that is a little bit easier to pull out in that way. And that particular PDF is organized so that each lesson is on individual pages, just for ease of access. The other thing you'll see on this same page is the Walk and Roll e-toolkit activity tracker, which can be downloaded, and we also include some description of how it can easily be drawn so that in case downloading or printing is not accessible. Included here is the photo release as well, in both English and Spanish. And to add, the lesson plan is going to be on this same page. It will be translated in Spanish, and that should be available by the end of this week. So again, this can all be accessed at the OregonSafeRoutes.org website. So now I'm going to kind of dive in to the substance of what is in this document, and I'll just start off with this overarching intent of this was to create something that was flexible and also that was not overwhelming, because right now, as soon as the children shifted and the teacher shifted into this platform of offering virtual education, there's actually been so much material that's been put up and accessible that it's almost overwhelming. So the idea here was, how can we make it accessible on that same platform, but get the kids to be outside and walking and rolling in the spring, and not be necessarily always having to view everything from their screens, but really being able to take it and really play with it in outside with other materials. And we'll get into how that and what that looks like when we get into the lesson plan. Again, the intent of this is for our Safe Routes to School coordinators and for school administrators, so that they could take out of it and apply it and customize it to what their needs are. We wanted to also be very conscious of just the shift and the stress and the extra workload that a lot of the schools are having to undertake. So the idea is it's simple and it's straightforward. Moving forward into the purpose, the timeline here, coming out in the spring, the idea it would be able to fuel some walk and roll programs, but we wanted it to also have a kind of a bigger play. So it is in a way timeless, and we'd like it to be something that people tap into throughout the year, and maybe running some summer challenges, or given that the future is somewhat unclear to us all right now, it may be it will probably be very valuable to have a resource to guide virtual challenges throughout the future. So the idea with this is that it can apply in any time of the year. And the participants are laid out in this particular section, where we just are calling to the coordinators and administrators, and it can be crafted to be handed out to the families as well. So we wanted to make sure that we provided just a very complete document. We have created this in light of meeting all the COVID-19 guidelines, state and federal. So we've referenced and designed the outdoor activities to be 100% in compliance with where we are with social distancing. And so that's all noted here in this page. I'm going to move on. We've provided a few ideas on communication and outreach. That's really an ongoing conversation on how to create the most effective outreach at this point. A lot of schools are overwhelmed with wrapping the school year up, but at the same time, a lot of teachers, and specifically PE teachers, are kind of trying to be creative with how they can engage some of their students. And a lot of them are aware of what normally happens at this time of year. So we have found there's a lot of receptivity in that realm. So this is just a list in this section of some ideas of how to reach out. Another way that it's been sent out is through newsletters, and we're working on running our own challenge here locally, which I'll get into more in the future. This includes a sample letter to provide some language on how that communication can be sent out. Included in this, following that section on communication, is the photo release. This is an example of one of the pages that is also individually available on the Oregon Safe Routes website. So it can be separately downloaded and used however a challenge might be, or however a program might be run. So whatever you need to, however you want to send that out for people to sign, we've made it accessible. We've included a section here on an optional challenge component. So this is page 6 of the e-toolkit. This is how the document itself is not designed to implement a challenge. It's really giving guidelines. And this is simply an example of how that can be folded into practice. And we've given some examples of how it can be tracked. This includes a separate document, which I'll follow on the next slide, and some guidelines for how to enter into a contest. Then again, some direction on prizes and incentives, which really just getting the ultimate goal is to get kids out playing and learning, and reminding them that this program is still a part of their education and how important it is, and that sometimes is quite a good incentive, but still prizes are very helpful. So you can see we've included the contact information to Lindsay, and in order to direct people to where they can access some of those fun pencils and stickers and all the good things that kids like to collect. So this is an example of that tracking document. It is within the e-toolkit. It's also available separate download. It's really easy to replicate as well. So in our challenge, I've actually just created a short video of drawing this out so that it makes it nice and easy. One of the other means of tracking is a Google form, and that can also be provided depending on what kind of platform the program is run. So now I'm going to dive into the lesson plan. This is the fun part. This is how we lay out how this all can be introduced to the students. Again, this piece, specifically the pages of the lesson plan, are available separately, and each module is on a separate piece of paper, and so that it can be downloaded. And we have one of the PE teachers that's just taken this lesson plan and linked it to a virtual bike, so the kids can just take a look at this and maybe pick out an activity that they want. And the way this is designed is really for that purpose, and so that it's not required that in order to fulfill the needs of this, they have to do the entire lesson plan, but different teachers and families can pick out maybe a few activities that's realistic and to them that they can get involved with, and rather than having to feel like they needed to complete the entire thing. The same thing applies to if someone was to take this and run a challenge. These pieces can be pulled out and applied into a certain format of however the challenge is going to be laid out, and also the duration of the challenge. So it fits into a nice 2-week schedule, but possibly would work better as a 1 week, and so not pulling out all the activities. So it's very dynamic and adaptable. I have some closer shots of the lesson plan so that we can kind of see some of these details of the activities. So this is the first module, and showing just a step-by-step process for crossing the streets. Very simple to practice and to engage in this particular activity, really taking a look at it and going outside and practicing with family. So nothing that requires too much material in order to explore this. We've also included as many videos as we possibly could. Having that bit of visual stimulus is really effective in getting to the children and the kids. So where we've had a video, we've made sure to include those links. And more videos are going to continue to be developed as we progress through these activities and kind of using the program. So we'll see where that one goes as well in the future. So the next lesson following here is the sidewalk etiquette. Again, a selection of videos to watch and an activity of going outside. So one thing to note as well as we move through these activities is that they tend to have several options within them, because we're trying to allow for that adaptation to whatever might be accessible to the participant. We've also included elements of fun and play to try to keep this intriguing, including bonus activities that follow each of the modules. This is the second module, which gets into then riding the bicycle. And this is directions on how to do the ABC quick check, and also taking into consideration if one doesn't have a bike or a helmet at that time, allowing them to still explore this by maybe drawing a picture of their dream bike and practicing labeling the parts so they still become familiar with what that quick check looks like. And to continue through the lesson plan, we have 2 more modules. One is getting to know your neighborhood, and one is who uses the streets. Like I mentioned earlier, really the intent of this is to get the kids to be able to go outside and start to kind of get some constructive play and practice observing and practice listening and practice becoming familiar with their own route. And so these modules are focusing on that. And as we move through it, we start to get to, and when we get to the last module, it really is talking about how taking all that you've learned and applying it, but it's not limited that you have to do all of the modules. You still can pull out pieces as fits your needs. a closer look into those modules. This is the third module, getting to know your neighborhood. We have added a little map making project and giving just options on how that can be explored, whether it's inside with paper and markers or out using chalk and pavement outside. And then learning the characteristics of the best streets to cross and letting them tell a story, whichever way might best fit. Our last module is really open, who uses the streets, getting kids to turn on that observation and finding fun ways to chart or tally, whether it's on paper or outside, again with chalk, and letting it be as flexible. So this is a great example because it's a lot of material just to give lots of options on how they can achieve this lesson. And then at the end of the module, another example of the bonus activity, we've included a scavenger hunt, but really any form of a scavenger hunt. There's lots of material out there now of exploring your neighborhood scavenger hunts. So the teddy bear scavenger hunt is one locally that's getting a lot of attention and has been fun for kids to get out, to walk, and to observe that around what's around their neighborhood. So this slide is showing a sample schedule. This isn't directly within the e-toolkit. What I have been doing as I've been sharing it with schools is providing a little bit of a rundown of what it might look like if they were to run a challenge or run the program. And this gives an example of 1 week of activities and how it can fit in. And it really presents it as it's not as huge and overwhelming. It's a really simplified way of looking at how a week might look if this schedule was used. So that's the end of the e-toolkit. One thing, we have been working with this now for a bit in terms of outreach and creating our own challenge. So as I'm wrapping up, I just wanted to kind of share a little tiny bit about that and what's worked for us. And one of the ways has been reaching out to a lot of the schools directly and just finding out and getting a feel for what they are ready for, or what they have the capacity to kind of take in, and if we can help in any way. And that kind of drove us to create our own challenge that we are going to run for 2 weeks. And I've given that invitation to the schools that if they want to simply share our challenge with their students, it's an easy way to follow without putting more of a demand upon them to incorporate into their lesson. And I will say at the same time, there has been lots of interest from the PE teachers to pull it and just run with it. And that's been really nice that they found the material as something they can adapt right into their lesson plan. So that's kind of where we go with who is using the e-toolkit. And just as a reminder, the toolkit is available at OregonSafeRoutes.org, and the pieces are, you can download pieces separately or the whole document. So that is everything I have on the e-toolkit. I want to take this time to open it up to any questions that you might have. So you can go ahead and enter your questions into the questions box down there, and we'll be happy to respond. I'll leave a few more minutes to see if any questions come up. I will also take this time just to share, make sure everyone has our contact information. So if you have ideas of outreach or any questions on how you can use and implement the material that Lindsay presented or that I presented, you can definitely reach out to us and we can provide more details or any of the kind of troubleshooting that we've done. We're happy to share with you. And I will add one note on that in terms of troubleshooting. When this material came out and reaching out to schools, a lot of the response was, can we wait until the fall? And that's the nice thing about the e-toolkit, is that it will live through the fall. It will be something that can be used during the summer. So we've reassured that it will help guide some back to school programs, but that since we are doing our own challenge, they can kind of piggyback off what we're doing, which makes it a little bit less intimidating to and burden and less work for the people that might want to participate. All right, well, I don't see, if no one has any further questions, again, please reach out to us. And it's been a pleasure to be able to share with you both the poster contest and the e-toolkit. And I hope that these resources are helpful to anybody who's looking to really help push some virtual walking and rolling education and encouragement within their communities.